Hey, what's up everybody? I'm Sarah with the Adventure Squad, and today I am bringing you a brand new game from Flatout Games, and that is Knitting Circle. Now, Knitting Circle is for 1 to 4 players, ages 10 plus, and it takes between 30 and 45 minutes to play. Knitting Circle is a sister game to Calico, so if you've ever played Calico, this is a somewhat similar but also very different game than Calico. Now, it's similar to Calico because you are still knitting. However, in Knitting Circle, you're going to be making different types of garments. So you could be making sweaters or socks or hats, and you're going to be drafting tiles to fill in those different garments. So you're actually going to be creating these different garments with different colored yarn tiles. There's also buttons that will give you extra points at the end of the game if you can complete the criteria on the button within your garments. But wait, we also can't forget the cats. There are 4 different super cute cats that you can have on your player boards and as your little cat token. So you can choose whatever color you like. There's orange, white, gray, or black, and that will be your cat for the game. So if you're ready for a super cute, really fun game, let's jump into Knitting Circle and show you how to play. Let's start with components and setup. We have 4 unique player boards here, each with a different cute cat on it, and 4 cat tokens to go along with those player boards. There are 2 central knitting circles here, and you'll be using whichever one based on your player count. So this smaller circle here is for 1 to 2 players, and then this bigger circle is for 3 players. And then this one actually flips over, and it has even more spots for a 4-player game. Next, we have our score pad for final scoring. We have a cloth yarn bag that includes all of our colored yarn tiles in it. These yarn tiles come in 6 different colors. We have purple, green, pink, dark blue, light blue, and yellow. All of these yarn tiles are double-sided, so there's 2 different patterns on them. We have this striped side on them, which is called the knit, and the other side, which is just more of a plain color, not these distinct lines on it, and this plain side is called purl. So we have 2 different patterns, and these tiles will be played on both sides, so either the knit side or the purl side. Then we have our garment cards, and we have 6 different garments that we can knit. We have mittens, hats, socks, scarves, sweaters, and long johns. Next, we have all of our different tokens. We have our first player marker here. We have our knitting needles, so each player is going to get 2 of these knitting needle tokens, and they can each be working on up to 2 different garments. We have our grabby paws for being able to draw whichever tile we want out of the bag. There are ugly garment tokens, or angry kitties as we call them. They are -3 points if your garment does not match one of the patterns. And lastly, we have all of our button tokens. So these buttons will be assigned to our different garments, and different buttons have different things. So these are our color buttons. So our garments must have the colors that are on these buttons within it. These are all of our different pattern buttons. So our garments could be stripes, color block, solids, etc. And lastly, our garment buttons. So these can be put on our different garments if we have knit those specific garments, so our long johns, sweaters, and so forth. There are 18 different request cards. If you're looking for a little bit more of a challenge or to add more to the game, you can lay out 4 of these request cards, and these are going to be objectives that players are going for throughout the game. This will earn them extra points and some grabby paws. We also got the Special Requests mini expansion, the Kickstarter promo. To set up the game, each player gets a player board and their matching cat, as well as 2 knitting needles. These knitting needles are for each of the garments that we are working on. So once we complete a garment, those garments will be shifted over, and our knitting needles will be free to start a new garment, but we can start up to 2 garments at a time. On this central knitting board, it indicates with symbols where our cat tokens will go. So whoever the starting player is will go on this star symbol here, and there's a circle symbol over here for where the second player's cat would go. Now we're just going to be showing how to play a 2-player game, so we're using the smaller board here. If we were playing with 3 or 4 players, we would be using the bigger board that has more ports or spaces for our tiles to be in. Now, just to quickly take a look at the player boards, we have 4 spaces up top for tiles that we draft. We have 3 spaces along the side for 3 different grabby paws. We have our basket that we can have at most 2 tiles in. And then we have spaces for our buttons, so we can have 2 buttons of each. At the bottom, it tells just a little bit about our cat that we chose, and then it walks us through how to play the game. So we have the drafting phase, the crafting phase, and the round end. It also shows us the 4 patterns that we can have when we're knitting our garments. We'll talk more about the round structure and our different knitting patterns as we go through the game. We're going to make sure we have all of our yarn tiles in our yarn bag here, and we're going to give them a good shuffle. Next, we're going to go in our yarn bag, and we are going to take out 1 yarn tile of each color. These yarn tiles get placed in the middle of our knitting board, and those are going to tell us how many rounds we have left in the game. Next, we're going to be drawing 2 yarn tiles for each of these spaces. Now, these spaces indicate which side to place the tiles. So we have the knit side and we have the purl side. So when we draw out our tiles, we're going to start with the first player, and that's going to be the purl side. So we just draw out 2 random tiles, and we're going to place those 2 tiles in that space, making sure that those tiles are on the purl side. And we're just going to continue all the way around the board until it's full. Next, each player is going to get 2 random yarn tiles to place in their basket. Yarn tiles that are in a player's basket can be either side, so they can be either the knit side or the purl side. So when players are playing these tiles onto their garments, if it's coming from their basket, they can decide which knit or purl side they would like to use on that garment. Then we're going to shuffle all of our garment tokens, and each player is going to get 2 of each shape. Make sure that all of the button tokens, grabby paws, and ugly garment tokens are in the middle of the play area where everyone can reach. We're going to shuffle each of our different garment cards and make sure they are within reach of all players. To start, players can select 1 garment and take 2 cards of that garment to choose from. They'll pick one of those cards to keep, and the other will be placed at the bottom of the garment pile. These garment buttons that players have on their player boards will be assigned to finished garments that meet these criteria. So we have our color buttons. So if I make a garment that has pink, purple, and blue in it, it would meet that criteria, and I would be able to assign this button to that finished garment. This button is worth 3 points, and you can see how many points these buttons are worth. It's just right on the buttons themselves. So if I'm looking at this player's board here, they have buttons for long johns and mittens. So they might want to start with taking mittens or long johns, so they can start working on those right away and get these extra points. So this player might choose to go for long johns. So they can take 2 of these long john cards and decide which one they would like to keep and which one they'll discard to the bottom of the pile. All of the cards within a stack will be the same length, so it'll take the same amount of yarn tiles to finish. To finish a garment, you just have to get to this first dotted line here. So if you get to this first point slot here, this 5, that means you've completed the garment. You can choose to keep going if you want to get more points or more extra benefits or bonuses. But to have a finished garment, you have to get it to at least that first point value. And you can take a look at the bottoms. So for this one, if I complete this long john, I would get 4 points. And if I were to complete this long john, I would get 2 points for every garment type that I have finished at least 2. So if I finish 2 of these long johns, I would get 2 points for finishing those long johns. So we'll start with this one. If I finish this one, it'll give me 4 points at the end of the game. So we stick our garment under one of our knitting needles here, and that shows us that that is one of the garments that we are working on. The other card that we didn't choose just goes at the bottom of the pile. Once each player has selected which garment they would like to keep, the first player, as indicated by the first player marker here, and also where their cat is located, so whoever was chosen to be the first player, is going to pick one of these yarn tiles from the center to replace one of these tiles from the outside. Each round, the first player will select one of these tiles to replace an outside one, and that's going to indicate the round that we're on. Once a player swaps out the last tile from the center of the board here, you'll know that you're on the last round. Since for my colors I need some pink here, I might choose to place the pink. And whatever space you decide to put it in, you have to put the tile the correct way or pattern. So let's say I'm going to put it here. I'll take out this dark blue one, and I have to put it on the knit side because that is in the knit space. That dark blue tile then just gets put in the tile bag and reshuffled. Now we move to the drafting phase. Each player will be drafting 4 tiles each round. So whoever the first player is, they can move 1 or 2 spots and select one of the tiles from that spot. So let's say I move here. I can select either the pink or the yellow tile. So I'm going to take the pink tile, and when we draft a tile, it must stay on the side that we are drafting it, so it must stay on this knit side when I place it on my board. Play continues in clockwise order. So the second player would decide if they want to stop in this spot or this spot. And since I need green and light blue, I'm just going to move 1 and take one of these light blue tiles. It doesn't matter which one because they're both the same. But I'm just going to place that tile in the first slot on my board. When placing tiles on our board, we must go in order. So the first one goes on the left and we continue to the right. So the second tile we draft would go in number 2, third and 3, and fourth and 4. I'm going to move the orange cat here, and I'll get this purple. Second player will move here and get this green tile. Now, when moving, there can only be 1 cat on a space, so I would not be able to stop in this space here because the gray cat is already in that space. So I could either land here or here if I were to go 2 spots. 1, 2. So when we're moving our cats, we skip over other cats, and we also skip over empty spaces. So let's say this yellow was gone here. If we were going this direction and we were coming from here, we would skip this space if there weren't any tiles in this slot. So I'm going to go 1, 2, and grab this blue piece. Then I'll go 1, 2, and get this purple. 1, 2, to get the green. So again, when you're drafting tiles, you can move 1 or 2 spaces ahead of where you're currently positioned. You cannot stay on a current space that you're on, and you cannot land on any spaces that have cats or are empty with no tiles. Once all players have their 4 selected tiles, we move to the crafting phase. During the crafting phase, all players play at the same time, so they are completing their garments and doing different actions at the same time. For this example, we'll walk through both players' turns. So let's start with our first player. During the crafting phase, there are several different things that you can do, and these can be done in any order. If we have an open knitting needle, we can choose to start a new garment. To start a new garment, you would have to discard one of your yarn tiles of the color of garment that you're wanting to start. So if I wanted to start a mitten, I would have to get rid of a dark blue tile. If I discarded a tile to start a new garment, it would be just like the start of the game. Anytime we start a new garment, we would take 2 cards and decide which one we want to keep and tuck the other one at the bottom of the pile. So every time you start a new garment, you'll have 2 cards to choose from. Whichever garment you choose to work on, you would place on your open knitting needle. Next, we can work on our current garments that we have, so we could place any of our yarn tiles that we wanted onto our garment. At any time, we can choose to discard one of our yarn tiles, and we would be able to flip over any number of our yarn tiles that we chose that round and make them whichever side we want them to be. So let's say I needed this purple tile to be the other direction from my garment, I could discard one of my other tiles and flip that to the other side so I can then play it onto my garment. All of the garments that we're making go every other in the pattern, so the knit, purl, and so on. So being able to discard one of our tiles to flip all of our tiles whichever way we need them to be can be very handy. We can also use grabby paws. Now, I did forget to set these out at the beginning of the game. Each player starts with one grabby paw. To use a grabby paw, we just discard it back to the grabby paw pile, and we would be able to search the tile bag for any tile that we needed. So we can actually look in the bag and find whatever tile we need, and it goes into our basket. So that means we would be able to play it either way. And lastly, we can complete garments. So if we are able to fill our garments to at least this first point number here, we would be able to consider that garment finished. You can continue down and get more points or more bonuses if you want, but you have to get at least to that first point value to consider the garment finished. If we're able to finish a garment, that's when we would move it to the side to our other finished garment area, and we can apply these buttons. So if my garment had a pink, I could apply this button to it. If it had solid color, so it would be solid pink, I could apply this button to it. You can apply one button of each of these different shapes to your finished garments. And if your finished garment does not match one of the 4 standard patterns, you would get an ugly garment button, one of these angry cat buttons that are -3 points at the end of the game. When creating your garments, you have to use one of 4 patterns. We can either have stripes, color block, symmetrical, or solid. These pictures in the different shades of brown are what you see on your player boards. So it'll show you an example of stripes, color block, symmetrical, and solid. Now, stripes is just going to be rotating every other color. So for instance, purple, green, or blue, pink. However, this is not a stripe because there's 2 tiles and then 2 more of a different color. It has to go 1 and 1. The minimum length of stripes is 3, so you wouldn't be able to have just a purple and a green tile. You would have to have at least another purple to have at least 3 of those color tiles in a row to make it stripes. For color block, you're going to be using at least 2 different colors, and the blocks have to be at least 2 tiles. So for this one, you have 2 light blue and 2 dark blue. For this one, you have 3 purple and 2 green, which works. They don't have to have the same amount of each color, but each color does have to be at least 2 tiles. Color block can have 2 or more different colors. However, it cannot repeat a color. For instance, in this last picture here, there's 2 yellow, 2 green, and then 3 yellow. That does not work because you cannot repeat a color. Next, we have symmetrical, and for us, this is by far the hardest one. Basically, if you fold your garment in half, it should look the same. So your A's, your B's, and your C's would all be in the same spot. Or for instance, for this one, if you have 4 tiles, if you split your garment in half here, it's mirrored, or it will fold over on itself. If a garment is a different pattern, such as stripes or color block or solid, it does not count as symmetrical, so it can't be also a striped pattern. It has to be different yet symmetrical. So like this last one, there's different colors in here, but if you fold it in half, they would be the same on both sides. It's mirrored. And lastly, we have solids. So your garment is going to be all one color, and the minimum length of the garment is 3. So if you only have 2 of a color, that does not count. You have to have at least 3 tiles for it to be considered a solid garment. So this player can start working on their long johns. And since this is a very long garment, I'm going to try and do this 3 color button here. So I'm going to need pink, purple, and dark blue. And then I'm going to try and do a color block for the pattern on this. So basically I would need to try to use at least these 3 colors, but keeping those colors in blocks. So at least 2 of each of those colors. So 2 pink, 2 purple, 2 blue. And then I also have a long john button here. So if I'm able to complete these long johns with these 3 colors in a color block, I would be able to add those 3 buttons to my long johns. So we're going to start building these long johns, and it has to start with the knit pattern. And you can tell that that's the way it goes because it fits in that shape there. It doesn't fit if it's the other way. So we start with the striped pattern, and then I have a second pink one here, so I have at least 2 for that color block. So I can play this one here. Now again, if it's coming from your basket, it can be played either way, but it was already the direction that I needed it to fit in my long johns. Next, I have 2 purples here that I can play. So I'm going to play the knit pattern, and then this guy down here, because it has to go the other way. And then as you can see, I covered up a bonus, and this bonus is plus a tile. That means I can draw a tile from the bag. Whenever you draw a tile from the bag, that tile goes in your basket. And now I do have this blue tile here, but it doesn't fit where I need it. That next one has to be a striped pattern. And when we're doing our garments, we have to do it top to bottom. So I wouldn't be able to just place this one here because it wouldn't be connected to the rest of it. We have to go top to bottom in order. At the end of the round, we can have a maximum of 2 yarn tiles in our basket. So any tiles that are left from the ones we chose this round get placed in our basket at the end of the round. So right now, I would have 3 in my basket, so one of them would go to waste. So for me, it would make sense to use one of these to get another garment that I could start working on either this round or next round. And this blue tile here, I'm still going to need that to complete this button, so I'm not going to use that to get a mitten. I'm going to use either the yellow or the green. And I think I'll just go ahead and use the green one to get a sweater. So your tile just gets discarded back into the bag to be reused, and you draw 2 cards. So I draw 2 sweater cards and decide which one I would like to keep. So for these 2 cards, if we look at the bonuses at the bottom, if I finish this card, I would be able to draw 2 tiles from the bag. This card, I would get 3 points for every scarf that I'm able to finish. And currently I don't have any scarves, so this one might be more useful to me because that's going to give me a couple more tiles to work with. So I think I'll go ahead and keep this one and put this one back. So this one just goes on my knitting needles, and this other one gets discarded to the bottom of the pile. If I'm done with any actions that I want to take this round, I just move this last tile here into my basket. So starting next round, I'll be able to use this either direction. Now let's take a look at player 2 and what they can do. Now taking a look at my buttons, I have this button with green and light blue, and I do have those colors already, so I'm going to try and do that. And then I could try and do the stripes. And since I have more blue, I might try to have those the other direction to try and fill up these socks. So I could discard this purple tile here, and I can flip any number of these other tiles. So I can choose to flip these 2 to stripes, and this green one to the pearl side. Then I can start adding these to my sock, just like this. And then here I am covering up a draw tile bonus, so I can draw a tile from the bag. And that tile goes in my basket. And I'm actually going to use my grabby paw as well, so I can grab a green tile out and place it on my sock. So you just go in the bag and you can draw out the tile that you need. And that can go right there. And then I have this last blue tile here, which came from my basket, so it can go either direction. And that can finish off my sock. Now that I've finished my sock, I can just shimmy that down here since I've finished it, and apply any buttons that I have that pertain to this finished sock. So I have this button, stripes, and it's a sock, so I can add this button here. Then, since I've finished this sock, I also get this bonus at the bottom, so I can draw another tile. Since I have 2 pink yarn tiles and this color block yarn button, I might choose to keep these pink ones and get rid of this blue tile to get a mitten. Once all players are done with their crafting phase, we move to the round end. So the round end is where we move any leftover tiles that we had from that round into our basket. And if we have more than 2 tiles in our basket, we must discard down to those 2 tiles, and any extras go back in the bag. Next, we refill our workspace with any buttons that we used in that round. So for this player, they have 3 missing buttons, so we would need to take another round, triangle, and square button. As an optional action, if a player has a button that they really don't like or don't want to use, they can choose one button to get rid of and discard and draw a new one. Players can discard one of their buttons that they don't want each round. Once all players have refilled their buttons and moved their tiles into their basket, we can refill the central knitting board. Any tiles that were out there from the previous round stay out there, and we start at the first player from that last round, which is the orange cat, and we refill with 2 tiles in each space. If there's a space with just 1 tile in it, we add a second tile to it, and if there's a space that already has 2 tiles in it from the previous round, no tiles are added to that space. The next person in clockwise order becomes the first player, or in this instance, the other player becomes the first player. The player who is now the first player chooses one of the yarn tiles from the center of the board to replace one of the outer tiles. So this player might choose to pick the yellow one and replace one of these pinks. After the first player swaps out one of the tiles, we start again with the drafting phase. Play continues for 6 rounds. And again, once we get to this final yarn piece in the center of the board and we swap out that yarn piece, you'll know that you're in the last round. The game ends when all players have finished their crafting phases in the 6th round. Let's go through scoring and see how each player did. For final scoring, we're going to be taking a look at our completed garments. Now, this is player 1's completed garment set here. And first, we're going to be taking a look at the buttons. So all of these extra buttons that we have on top of our garments. So for this mitten, we have yellow in our mitten, and it's also color blocked. So our blues are together and our yellows are together. For our scarf, we have all purple for our scarf, so that's a solid pattern. For this other mitten over here, we used purple and green, and it was a mitten. For these long johns, the colors were purple, pink, and blue, which we have, all color blocked, so pink together, purple together, and blue together, and they're long johns. So we had all 3 for the long johns. For this sweater over here, we used pink within our sweater, and it's color blocked. And then over here for this last mitten, we had solid, it was all yellow, and it was a mitten. So we go ahead and add up all the points that we got from all of these buttons, and that's going to go in the button box. Next, we're going to look at the base points, so how far we got in these completed garments. So for this mitten, we got all the way down to the bottom for 3 points. For this scarf, we only made it to this first box for 3 points. So we just go through and look at how far we got on each of our garments and count up those points. Then we're going to look at all of our bonuses at the bottoms of these cards. So for instance, this card, we get 1 point for every 2 of the light blue tiles that we had on these finished garments. So we have 2, 4, 6. So that would be 3 points just for this card. For our scarf, we get 1 point for every garment with 2 buttons. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 garments with exactly 2 buttons. So that would give us 4 points. For these garments, we just got the points at the bottom since we completed these garments. And then down here we get 1 point for every 2 purples that we had on our garments. So 2, 4, 6. So that's another 3 points. This player had no ugly garments because they all matched one of the 4 garment patterns that we could have. And then this bottom one is points for requests. Now, we just played the base game. We did not add in request cards, but if we had played with request cards, we could add in any extra points that we received from those cards in this box. Now let's take a look at player 2's garments. For player 2's garments and buttons, we have a sweater. It has the light blue color, it's color blocked, and we have the sweater button. For this mitten, we have stripes that are blue and yellow. For this mitten, we have the symmetrical and mitten buttons. So if you fold this garment in half, it'll be the same, so it's symmetrical. For these socks, we have green and blue stripes and the sock button. For this hat, we have solid, it's solid green, and we have the hat button. Lastly, over here we have our hat, which has pink in it, but we did get an ugly garment button because it does not have an accepted pattern. So we can go ahead and count up all the buttons that we have on our garments. Then we can count up our base points, so how far we got in each of these garments. Looks like it's going to be a close game here. Next we can add up all of our bonus points. So we get 2 points for each garment type with 2 or more finished garments. So we have 2 mittens and 2 hats, so that's 4 points. For this mitten, we get 1 point for every full garment, so every garment that we have fully completed and there's no spaces left. So we get 5 points for that. We get 1 point for every 2 dark blue tiles that we have, and we have 2 of those for 1 point. Over here for this hat, we get 3 points. And then we get 1 point for each garment type. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 different garment types. So we had 17 points for our garment bonuses. Then we have minus 3 points for that ugly garment token. Then we just add up the scores and the totals go in this bottom row. Player 1 ended up with 67 points and player 2 had 65. The only thing that really separated them this game was this last ugly garment token that player 2 had. So player 1 is the winner. In the rulebook, there is a clarifications page, so it talks about the different request cards and also the garment bonuses. So if you can't remember what a bonus means at the bottom of a card, you can look back on this page and find whatever one you're looking for. The rulebook also contains a family mode if you're playing with younger kids or just want to have a little bit easier playthrough for your first game. But this is great for if you have kids and you're looking to have a family game night. There is also a Calico mini expansion, so if you do have Calico, you can use some of the components from this game to make a brand new game for Calico. There is also a solo mode, and you can find the rules in the back of the rulebook along with different scenarios and achievements. Here you can see we have all of the different scenarios and all of the different achievements. We loved Calico, and Knitting Circle did not disappoint. We love the theme, we love knitting and creating your own garments and the different patterns that you have to make within your garments. We love the different colors, and just the artwork within this game is really cute and really cool. And we definitely can't forget about the cats. It's really fun picking out which cat you want to be for that game and having your little cat token to move around the knitting board. And if you already have the game Calico, they actually included ways to bring in some of the Knitting Circle components into Calico to change up the Calico game. We haven't gotten to try that yet, but we're excited to try the crossover version with Calico and Knitting Circle. Let me know in the comments if you guys have ever played Calico or the Knitting Circle, and if you've played both, which one do you prefer? If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the Adventure Squad down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, get your game on.